Scar let out a heavy sigh, his voice tinged with both pity and resignation. Poor little one. To endure such trials so soon after birth. Perhaps death would have been a kinder fate. Otherwise, the world may yet face another dragon destined to bring ruin. The ancient dragon race had long since retreated to the shadows, hiding beneath the dense canopies of forests far removed from human civilization. This self-imposed exile was not without reason. The actions of their forebears had sown fear and hatred among the other races. Whenever a dragon of immense size, stretching nearly a kilometer in length, ventured into the world, human prophets would sound the alarm, declaring the arrival of a world-ending calamity. In response, dragons were hunted relentlessly, not just by humans but by monsters, subhumans, and other races alike. The dragons' reputation as harbingers of destruction had sealed their fate. As Grail, a formidable dragon, prepared to feast on the remains of his latest kill, the little black dragon seized its chance. Seeing Grail's bloodied maw, the small creature didn't hesitate. With a burst of speed, it dove straight into Grail's open mouth, catching the larger dragon completely off guard. Grail gagged, his throat convulsing as the little dragon lodged itself deep within. Desperate to rid himself of the intruder, Grail began to summon his dragon flames, intending to incinerate the little dragon from within. But the little black dragon was not so easily defeated. Deep within Grail's throat, it gathered its own power, unleashing a torrent of annihilation dragon flames. The clash of fiery energies caused Grail to choke violently, his roars turning into ragged coughs. Cough. Cough, cough. Grail's massive body writhed in agony as the little dragon clawed its way deeper, tearing through his innards with relentless ferocity. The pain was unbearable, and Grail thrashed wildly, his cries for help echoing across the landscape. Save me! Dragon King! Scar! Sin! Thunder calamity! Someone, help me, he bellowed, his voice hoarse and desperate. But no aid came. Scar, watching from a distance, responded with cold indifference. Poof! This is the king's decree. You must prevail on your own. No one had anticipated that Grail, a dragon of such immense power, would fall to a mere hatchling. Yet, in a matter of moments, his internal organs were devoured entirely. The little black dragon, now drenched in golden dragon blood, burst forth from Grail's belly, its small form radiating an eerie, triumphant energy. The other dragons looked on in stunned silence, their expressions grim. Only Scar seemed pleased, a faint smile playing on his lips. Well done, little one, he murmured. The little black dragon, now standing victorious, turned its gaze to the flame dragon mother. Dragon King, I survived. I won. Will you save my mother now? The flame dragon mother, her initial astonishment fading, considered the request carefully. Very well, she said at last. From this day forward, you are a member of our dragon nest. Do you have a name? The little dragon shook its head, its eyes filled with hope. Not yet. The flame dragon mother pondered for a moment before speaking. You are a female dragon. From now on, your name shall be Nidhogg. With that, she turned to Scar. Take Furbus' head to the roots of the world tree. Let her be reborn as a wooden dragon. The process of resurrection was simple yet profound. By grafting the dragon's head to the roots of the world tree and planting it in the soil, a new body would grow, a body of wood, imbued with the essence of life itself. Meanwhile, in the Tian Quang tribe, Lin Tian had finally recovered after a day of rest, thanks to the relentless energy absorption by the vampire. As he stepped outside, he found Goblin Slayer seated by the campfire, roasting meat over the flames. Why are you here? Lin Tian asked, his tone wary. Is there any news from Bright Town? Goblin Slayer glanced up, her expression unreadable. You're lucky. The Sword Saintess is occupied with Dragon Island and hasn't come after you yet. But 200 or 300 adventurers from Bright Town are scouring the land, searching for you. Lin Tian's face darkened. He had hoped the Sword Saintess would remain distracted, but the sheer number of adventurers posed a significant threat. He couldn't afford to be complacent. Goblin Slayer continued, her voice calm. Hiding here will keep you safe for now. As long as you don't draw attention to yourself, you can avoid this wave of trouble. But what's happening outside? Has the sword saintess returned? Lin Tian pressed, his anxiety mounting. Goblin Slayer shook her head. Not yet. She's likely still dealing with the chaos on Dragon Island. Relief washed over Lin Tian, but it was short-lived. He knew he couldn't rely on luck forever. After a moment of contemplation, he made a bold decision. A search party of that size will find us eventually. We need to strike first and eliminate them before they can act. He reasoned that by defeating the adventurers, they could not only remove the immediate threat but also gain valuable experience and resources. Perhaps, with enough power, they could even stand against the Sword Saintess herself. Goblin Slayer shrugged, indifferent. Do as you please. It's your fight, not mine. With his mind made up, Lin Tian activated the life simulation system, a tool that allowed him to foresee the outcomes of his decisions. He needed to know if his plan would lead to victory or disaster. Life simulation system activated. Current scenario, siege. With the Sword Saintess preoccupied, the adventurers of Bright Town have launched a massive coordinated search. They are combing through the enchanted forest, inch by inch. Thanks to your tribe's excellent concealment techniques, they have yet to discover your location. However, in an effort to bolster your tribe's strength, you decide to send out a group of goblins to lure the adventurers into a trap. This is a risky move. You must ensure no survivors escape to report your location. Soon, an adventurer spots the goblins and traces them back to the waterfall cave. Instead of charging in, the adventurer alerts the others. The adventurers convene, arm themselves, and prepare to storm the cave, confident in their ability to wipe out your tribe. The plan unfolds as expected. The adventurers gather outside the waterfall, ready to attack. Inside the cave, your traps and guards are poised to strike. As the adventurers enter, they are picked off one by one. Even the strongest among them fall to your ambushes. After dozens of casualties, the adventurers grow cautious. They halt their advance, regrouping to devise a new strategy. Option 1, launch a counterattack and annihilate the adventurers. Success probability, 50%. Option 2, maintain your defensive position, picking off adventurers as they come. Success probability, 40%. Option 3, attempt to negotiate a truce. Success probability, 20%. Lin Tian quickly dismissed the third option. Negotiating with the adventurers would only buy time, not solve the problem. The first option was tempting, a decisive strike could end the threat, but the risk of leaving behind evidence that might attract the Sword Saintess was too great. Reluctantly, he chose the second option. You decide to hold your ground, continuing to whittle down the adventurers' numbers. However, the adventurers adapt, using powerful magic to clear the path ahead. Your goblins, unable to withstand the onslaught, begin to falter. Just as the situation grows dire, the elves step in, their arrows raining down on the adventurers and halting their advance. The battle drags on until nightfall, when the vampire Lilith and her kin join the fray. The vampires strike from the shadows, attacking the adventurers from all sides. The tide turns, and your tribe emerges victorious. Lin Tian nodded, satisfied with the outcome. The simulation had shown him a path to victory, albeit a costly one. The corpses of the fallen adventurers would provide ample resources to strengthen his tribe, potentially creating a new generation of goblin heroes. With the simulation complete, Lin Tian ended the session, his resolve hardened. The time for hiding was over. It was time to fight. The narrow cave entrance provided a significant tactical advantage, but Lin Tian knew the true turning point had been the vampire's intervention. Score, 80 points, out of 100. Reward, life points x 80. The life simulation had reached its conclusion, spanning a single day. A prompt appeared before Lin Tian. Do you want to transmigrate to the simulation progress? Without hesitation, Lin Tian selected, transmigrate. A flash of white light engulfed his vision, and when it faded, he found himself standing at the blood-soaked entrance of the cave. The ground was littered with the lifeless bodies of adventurers, their blood pooling into dark, sticky puddles. Nearby, Lilith and her vampire kin were feasting on the fresh blood of the fallen. Their pale faces were smeared with crimson, their fangs glistening as they drank deeply. "This taste is exquisite," Lilith exclaimed, her voice dripping with dark delight. "Human blood truly is the finest." The vampires were a terrifying sight, their once elegant forms now twisted into something monstrous. Their claws were elongated, their skin ghostly pale, and their eyes glowed with an unnatural hunger. They tore into the necks of the dead with savage abandon, their movements frenzied and primal. The goblins, cowering at the edges of the cave, watched in horrified silence. None dared to approach the vampires in their frenzied state. Goblin Slayer, leaning casually against the cave wall, observed the scene with a faint smile. "Interesting," she remarked. "A goblin cave inhabited by elves, humans, vampires, and me, a half-human, half-goblin. Quite the eclectic group." Lin Tian cleared his throat, breaking the tense atmosphere. "Lia, Gobu, secure the perimeter. Make sure nothing outside gives us away." He turned to Gobu Tian, his voice steady. "No adventurers escaped, right?" Gobu Tian nodded firmly. "I've been guarding the entrance. No one got away." It was a complete victory. The bodies of hundreds of adventurers were piled high in the living area, forming grotesque mounds of flesh and blood. The stench of death hung heavy in the air, suffocating and oppressive. Loder, the captured human, stood trembling in a corner. His face was pale, and cold sweat dripped down his brow. The sheer horror of the scene had triggered a primal fear deep within him. His heart raced, and he struggled to maintain his composure. In his mind, he prayed fervently. "Father, Church, when will you come to save me? Cecil, you must deliver the message." He had never imagined that hundreds of adventurers, many of them renowned, would fall so easily. Now, his only hope lay in his family's intervention or the Holy Church's assistance, especially since Ifreya, a high-ranking member, had also been captured. Meanwhile, Lin Tian began organizing the aftermath. The corpses of the adventurers were not just a grim reminder of the battle, they were a treasure trove of experience points. He surveyed the surviving members of the tribe. Many of the high-level goblins had perished in the fight, leaving only 15. However, these remaining goblins were all at levels 47 or 48, poised for evolution. Lin Tian called out to the dozen or so large variants. "Step forward and devour." The goblins' eyes lit up with glee. "Thank you, boss," they chorused, their voices filled with gratitude. They descended upon the corpses with ravenous hunger. One goblin grabbed the slender arm of a young adventurer and bit down hard. Blood oozed out like juice from a ripe peach, and the goblin devoured the flesh and bone with relish. Another goblin, with a peculiar taste for the grotesque, targeted the fattest of the corpses. Using an iron sword, it sliced open the bloated belly, releasing a flood of yellowish fat. The sight was nauseating, but the goblin didn't hesitate. It plunged its face into the greasy mess, consuming the fat and flesh with abandon. The goblin race was reviled for this very reason, their need to consume others to grow stronger. Unlike humans, who gain strength through combat and training, goblins relied on devouring their enemies to level up. As the goblins feasted, their bodies began to change. The first to transform was the one who had indulged in the fatty corpse. Its body swelled grotesquely, its skin stretching and hardening as it grew into a massive, bloated figure. Its features became almost unrecognizable, buried beneath layers of fat and muscle. Lin Tian inspected the creature's attributes. Gluttonous goblin. Health, extremely high. Combat power, 1100. Special skill, gluttony, health increases with consumption. This was a rare variant, a living tank capable of absorbing immense damage. The other goblins evolved into more common hero variants, such as heavy goblins, with combat power around 900. Armed with large weapons, they became formidable warriors. Two of the goblins transformed into dark goblins, similar to Gobu Tian. These were assassins, swift and deadly in the shadows. Goblin Slayer observed the transformations with mild interest. A gluttonous goblin, she mused. If it keeps eating, even the sword saintess might struggle to bring it down. Lin Tian raised an eyebrow. How long would that take? About a year and a half of constant feeding, Goblin Slayer replied. Lin Tian frowned. The gluttonous goblin's appetite was insatiable, and sustaining it would be a challenge. Still, its potential as a defensive asset was undeniable. With the remaining corpses, Lin Tian distributed them among Gobu Tian, Gobu Kuang, and Gobu Shan. These three were the tribe's strongest fighters, and their evolution was crucial. After consuming their share, they reached level 60, their combat power soaring to around 1500. Gobu Shan, a mutant variant, was slightly stronger than the others. The rest of the corpses were divided among the remaining goblins, boosting their overall strength. However, Lin Tian noted a limitation: the goblins' gene devour skill only allowed them to absorb innate abilities, not learn skills. While humans possessed unique talents, consuming them only increased the goblins' levels without granting new powers. As the tribe settled into their new forms, Lin Tian surveyed the cave. The battle had been a resounding success, but he knew the war was far from over. The Sword Saintess still loomed as a threat, and the Holy Church would not ignore the loss of so many adventurers. For now, though, they had won a decisive victory. The goblins were stronger, the vampires sated, and the tribe's future looked brighter than ever. In the cave, Lin Tian received word from Gobu Tian and the others that the Sword Saintess had left Bright Town. Finally, after lying low for so long, they could finally step outside and breathe in some fresh air. Lilith, want to go out and have some fun? Lin Tian asked. Lilith lazily licked her lips, her gaze hazy. No, I'm a homebody. I'm happy as long as I'm fed. The Goblin Slayer, clearly annoyed, muttered, You eat all day, and I never get a turn. Damn bat, should I burn you with fire? He. Gobu forced a bitter smile from the sidelines, having seen this argument play out countless times before. Lin Tian quickly intervened, It's my fault, alright? I'll make sure everyone gets their share. If not for his goblin body, he wouldn't be able to handle so much. Plus, Gobu needed mating every day to maintain her level. While he wasn't sure what the world's level cap was, constant improvement was always better than stagnation. Leah, the elf, also required regular loyalty maintenance, meaning she had to be fed. Luckily, only Lilith among the vampires needed help, or he would have been drained dry by now. Sighing, Lin Tian muttered, I need to find a way to improve my body. It's holding me back. Every night, they didn't spare him, taking advantage of him when he slept. He woke up the next day feeling weak and sore. Could goblins even get diseases like this? Finally, he grumbled, I'll have to rely on the system to figure out how to evolve my body. Just then, a goblin sentry rushed in, looking frantic. Boss! A small goblin team from another tribe is approaching. They seem to be coming for us. Coming for us? Lin Tian frowned. There shouldn't be any goblin tribes within 100 miles. Could it be connected to the previous owner of the cave? He immediately gave orders. Gobu Tian, Gobu Shan, get ready. We need to capture them alive. They might be a special squad from a larger tribe. No problem, boss. Without hesitation, Gobu Shan and the other two, accompanied by a handful of goblins, swiftly and silently moved out. They concealed themselves behind the waterfall, peering through the thin veil of water to watch the approaching goblin squad. Lin Tian also joined them to evaluate the situation. On the other side of the river, a group of 10 goblins was slowly making its way across the grassland. They seemed to know the path well. And they were all large variants. The leader at the front was even a hero variant. This was a special variant Lin Tian had never encountered before. Standing nearly 1.8 meters tall, its body was covered in knotted muscles and yellow-black striped fur, resembling a tiger. Beast Goblin, LV 50. Race, Goblin. Profession, None. Title, Beast King Hybrid, God's Blessing, Hero's Power. Health, 750. Strength, 240. Defense, 230. Skills, Beast Bloodline, Tiger Bite. Equipment, Bone Club, Leather Armor. Overall, 800. Its strength was indeed formidable, but Lin Tian couldn't help but wonder about the tribe it belonged to. Even hero variants were just team leaders here. Its tribe was definitely not smaller than his own, perhaps even much larger. Fortunately, they didn't know how to cultivate or forge ironware, so this hero variant's combat power was far inferior to Gobu Quine and the others. At the same level, it would be about 100 points higher in combat power than the big variants of the Tian Quang tribe. But in a real fight, the big variants certainly couldn't single-handedly defeat the hero variants. The big variants behind the beast goblin were even weaker. They wielded wooden clubs as weapons, had no armor, few devoured skills, and poor aptitude with limited crossbreeding. An overall rating of over 300 was already considered good. No wonder those adventurers looked down on them. Lin Tian and his group remained silent, like hungry wolves waiting for their prey to take the bait. At that moment, the beast goblin suddenly stopped, its red eyes scanning the surroundings and sniffing. "I smell a faint scent of blood." "Boss, why can't I smell it?" one of the big variants behind asked, confused. The corners of the beast goblin's mouth slightly lifted, revealing an evil, human-like expression that sent chills down one's spine. It felt like being stared at by a white-fronted tiger. With its beast bloodline, its sense of smell was undoubtedly many times better than a normal goblin's. Lin Tian frowned, wondering to himself, has that guy discovered us? Maybe some food slipped into the cave. Let's get ready for a feast. Finally, the beast goblin speculated, extending its thick, sticky tongue and licking its lips. It continued to walk towards the waterfall cave. As they got closer, Gobu Tian and another dark goblin struck first. Capture the leader first, this was Lin Tian's combat strategy. Immediately, they darted to the beast goblin's feet, slashing its tendons and injecting a large amount of poison. Roar! The beast goblin hadn't even reacted when it let out a painful roar. The group of big variants behind it was frightened. Just as they were about to attack, Gobu Tian disappeared into the nearby river in a flash. The beast goblin hurriedly snarled, "Enemies! Prepare for battle!" The big variants calmed down, raised their weapons, and surrounded the beast goblin. With its tendons cut, it couldn't stand up at all. "Boss, we'll protect you," one big variant said proudly, trying to show its loyalty. However, from behind the waterfall, Gobu Tian stretched out 4 large hands and pounced. It grabbed the show-off variant and twisted its head off on the spot. The spraying blood scattered their arrogance. They all abandoned the beast goblin and started to flee. When faced with danger, they didn't care about any leader, their survival was most important. Swish! Bone spikes shot up from the ground. But one still managed to almost escape into the forest. Lin Tian gathered wind elements and blasted its head into a mushy mess. The beast goblin on the ground gradually became paralyzed, roaring angrily, "Let me go!